Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, or team up against a guest and battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 1. Hello, Podsters. This week, as Wrath of Man comes out in the US, we are doing, you've guessed it already because of my amazing accent, Jason Statham films.
That was terrible.
No, it wasn't. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
As ever, you've heard him already. It is Boaz Dix.
You mean it's Boaz Dix?
Boaz Dix. All right, normal voices now.
Oh, we're going to alienate our Cockney fans. Let's do it all Cockney.
So we need a translator now for the past 30 seconds for the Americans. It's Jason Statham films, just to be clear.
Exactly.
All right. How are you? You all right?
I'm doing fine. Still alive.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep, I am currently still alive.
Yeah, after that Jason Statham marathon. Just barely. Yeah.
Or rather, we should call this podcast the Shit Films Podcast. Or Shit Low Budget Action Films.
Exactly.
Statham
Starring
does.
Jason Statham, yeah. The only ones he can really get his hands on. I don't know.
Yeah, poor guy. He just wants to do Shakespeare.
I know. We should set up a fund for him, a charity. Jason Statham.
Please give him a Shakespeare movie.
Yeah. To be or not to be, you slay. Anyway.
So, Mr. Encyclopedia Man, what is your film for Jason Statham film?
So, from translator to transporter. Aha, you see what I did there? It's the transporter.
Nice.
That was a more convincing laugh than your Jason Statham impression.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
So why did you pick the transporter?
You know, I've never been a huge Jason Statham action movie buff or whatever and watched loads of them. And in fact, actually, this was the first film I ever watched with Jason Statham. Even before,
really?
Yeah, even before Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and stuff like that, where he was doing more, Guy Ritchie, small time, funny crook films.
Yeah.
This was in his period when I was younger, when he was doing the action films, and this is one of the very few that I actually watched. And I don't know, it's a short film, it's an okay film. It's got some really cool fight scenes and stuff. So yeah,
it's interesting with Jason Statham's career because certainly later on now he's doing he's in the Fast and Furious franchise, doing the Meg, these bigger budget films, and I don't think that's no surprise really, because I just don't think Hollywood is willing to make these type of films anymore, like The Transporter and Crank. If you're going to pitch this type of film, this mid-budget 60-50 million budget film, pretty much all the major studios in Hollywood are going to say no, But if they pitch it to Netflix or Amazon, they're going to pick it up. They'll make it. They'll be like, yeah, okay, fine. Just Hollywood's just not willing to make these type of films anymore. So it's very much of its time, this early noughties period of just crazy action,
Yeah.
Because if it hasn't got a superhero in it or something like that, aliens, people ain't going to go see it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely it's a thing of its time of it kind of reminds me of other films in the same area where Jet Li was doing a lot of short crazy action movies and other Chinese Hollywood stars, and then you had Jason Statham also getting in on that action and a few other actors just doing these really crazy short films of again, as you say, mid budget martial art movies.
So what happens in The Transporter?
So it follows a transporter, no surprise there, played by Jason Statham, no surprise there. And he transports anything. He's like a criminal, So whatever you need moving, he'll move it. And he's very meticulous with his rules, and he never breaks them. So I love the
Wow.
well, no, yeah. So basically, this film is he breaks his one rule and all shit breaks loose, you know. And so anyway, so the main plot of the film is he's told to transport this cargo. He decides to look in the boot. Actually, he gets a flat tire, and then as he's replacing the flat, when he opens the boot, he realizes there's a person he's transporting in the back. You know, he tries to ignore it, but then he opens it up and stuff like that. And it just it kind of escalates with the gang trying to kill him because he opened the cargo, and she's trying to get him to save like hundreds of people that are being like smuggled into the country, as like slaves and stuff. That's basically the plot, and it's action ensues.
So directing then, yeah, I mean some of the action is really well done, actually, fairly slick. I certainly like the opening chase is quite cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of typically cut together. I think for a car chase, there's nothing particularly special, I wouldn't say. But there's some nice cuts with the gear stick, and there's one shot where the camera like spins around does like a 360 on the gear stick really quickly, which is quite cool. Yeah, really slick action from Corey Young, who directs this film. But the jump across the bridge onto the car carrier is just like, what the fuck? It's just a bit ridiculous. The fact that the car literally hits the curb, hops over the fence or the railing, and lands on the car carrier perfectly with I mean, yeah, it is
pretty crazy. It's a magical car.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, he has a speed up of about 3 meters before he jumps over.
Yeah.
and doesn't move on the car carrier at all.
Crazy.
But there we
go. Yeah.
I mean, if Chris Nolan could do that for real, then my God, that's an incredible scene.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was pretty crazy. I liked how the fact that he was on the car truck thing, and they kept chasing him, and he's like, "Give me a gun," and like shoots off cars into police cars. Well, that was pretty cool. It was a really cool scene. It's great just opening up the film with just an action scene. Well, a high stakes car chase like that. Show everybody what this character's about. Yeah.
Some of the music choices is a bit weird, like when Frank Martin cuts a hole in the mouth of the girl he finds in the boot because she's got duct tape over her mouth, and there's like this, to give her a drink, and then there's this weird like romantic music.
Yeah, it's quite strange.
It's just a bit odd. I'm like, huh? I mean. Why are we supposed to have like romantic music right now? It's like, oh, okay. The film is basically telling us there's going to be a romance in this film, even though they've only met each other for like 2 seconds.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, it is kind of weird. I don't really buy the romance in this film. It is a bit strange.
It's just typical action movie romance, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm big, strong man. Save you. You love me.
Please have sexy time with me later on in the film where it's appropriate. Which I'll get onto in the screenplay, but there we go.
Exactly, yeah, I don't know. I found that kind of strange.
I mean, when the bomb goes off in the car, I mean, they couldn't have telegraphed that more, to be honest. You could see that coming from a mile off.
Yeah. Oh, I do love when he gets his revenge, though, and he goes straight back to the house, and you have another cool action.
Yeah.
Well, this time it's like his first like proper big martial arts scene, and just how he's kicking the crap out of everybody.
Yeah, that's actually my favourite scene. And
oh man, I thought it was great. And they're going at him with axes, and it's just the way the cameras move it's so frenetic, and it's like, oh man, it's great. And then I love the use of, so you go through all of that action and all of that shooting and fighting and what have you, and then he steals the guy's car, to replace his car. And I love how he's driving off, like racing off, and then turns off the radio, and it's like the pumping soundtrack that was during the whole fight scene coming out of the radio. I like that. It's small things like that I quite like,
Yeah, my favourite shot is actually in that scene right at the start where, Frank rings the doorbell, and then you get like the POV shot of the peephole in the door. And he just runs
and his leg
at
comes
it and
straight
kicks it.
Yeah.
That was great.
That was really good.
I love the way he like flings up like the green cloth. Because there's some goons like gambling, playing cards, and he flicks up the cloth which has the gun on it, and then does a spinny thing and catches it behind his back in slow motion. That was really cool.
Yeah,
And some of the big kicks, Statham does is really impressive. There's one like really big long one at the end to take out the last guy, which was quite impressive. Not Bruce Lee impressive, but still pretty impressive, I thought. Going back to like the bomb in the car, the fact that it was so telegraphed. The scene before is just the way the bad guys were, in that mansion, the way they just give him the case. And then when he stops for a drink, the way Frank Martin just is like walking towards the car and then turns back to get some drinks. And then there's just this massive wide shot of him walking back with the car in full view. You couldn't really telegraph that more, quite frankly.
Yeah, they should have had a ticking noise,
Yeah, it's just like, something's dramatic going to happen soon.
Yeah.
So have you got a favourite shot or scene?
Oh, man. Well, favourite scene is, I think, the fight in the warehouse.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, it's not a warehouse. What is it? It's like a bus depot.
Yeah.
Because we were discussing this, the oil bit, where it's just
You're
such
all
a
covered
weird.
in oil.
It's such a weird idea for a fight scene, but
it's really clever, though. I like the cleverness they're trying to apply to the film, because obviously all the goons are trying to grab him, but they all like slip off.
Because to start with, he's kicking the crap out of the big, Chinese guy who you've seen, be like a right-hand man, and he's quite threatening. He's quite big. And he does start beating him up, and then all these other guys come, and it's a bit too much for him to handle. He's not superhuman or something. So they're kicking the shit out of him a bit. And then he starts just smashing over all the grease and then covers himself in it. And it's great. They can't grab him. They're slipping off, but he can hit them. And then he does like the weirdest thing to stop him from slipping all over the floor. He takes a bicycle and smashes off the pedals. Yeah. He's able to, walk around. And
of course, in movie world, he won't slip up.
He won't slip up. Yeah. These are anti-slip pedals, grease-proof. But and he just kicks a ton of ass. I do like a lot of the action in the film. The one thing I don't like, as a special effect in the film is it's like all the fighting is great. All the, punching, the kicking, ass kicking, and all that stuff. And the choreography, good. But any time they start shooting bullets, I'm just
they have like these weird flares, don't they?
It's like it becomes
bullet trails.
It becomes Star Wars. Like these aren't bullets; these are blasters. These are lasers. Like you see the size of these goddamn. It's just so crazy. It's like these giant yellow lines.
I didn't mind that so much. I thought it was quite.
No, I thought it was weird. I don't think I ever got used to it. It's like
not realistic at all.
It's not realistic at all. The first time, when he gets into that, the fight at their base, and he comes, the one we just discussed, comes kicking through the door, kicks the crap out of all these guys. The first time that they then start firing bullets, it always shocks me out of the film of just like, whoa, this is not. Is this how the guns are? And they're like that through the rest of the movie. It's like these are space lasers. These belong in Star Trek.
Well, maybe the mob boss was like, right, guys, I'm going to give you flaring bullets so you can shoot the guys better, because you're really terrible shots. We got screwed over last time, so practice with these. Yeah, then you'll be able to hit your target
and
more.
still be terrible. Or these are plainclothes stormtroopers, and they
because that's what they did in the Second World War. The Spitfires
tracer rounds.
They used tracer rounds, so they could shoot the Germans easier.
Yeah, but even this, like I've seen tracer fire in a film like in Fury, and even tracer fire in that, and I've seen real tracer fire on like things like I've seen real tracer fire on like YouTube videos, and I think on Mythbusters.
Oh right.
So I've seen real tracer fire. And even when the things light up, they're not that thick. Like
no,
these are like steel beams coming out of these guns. These trails are enormous. So other than that, the action's good. It always just takes me out seeing the bullet.
Hey, I'm James Lovino, and I'm here to tell you about Alternate Sides, a movie podcast with a twist. I've worked in the film business for 2 decades, but I haven't actually seen that many movies, and this has been driving my frequent collaborator, Sam, a self-confessed film snob, crazy. So every week, while he's stuck in his car trying to avoid getting a parking ticket, thanks to New York City's alternate side parking regulations, we discuss a classic film I've finally just gotten around to seeing. Alternate Sides, a new podcast about movies, parking, and a 25-year friendship, wherever you get your podcasts.
And of course, just in case your house blows up, you can have, underwater breathing equipment in the underground canal. It's always a good shout.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
So what score are you giving directing for The Transporter, Mr. Encyclopedia Man? No, it's my turn because it's your film.
It's my film.
I always get that wrong. Right, yeah. I'm going to go...
You get everything wrong.
It's not fair. It's good, it's a good, if you got a spare Friday night or whatever, and you really can't think, if you've watched all the Marvel films over and over, and you're like, I need something different.
I think if you want a short, basically just action film, and it's not long, and there are loads of really cool fight scenes all the way through, then just give it a shout. It's not even complicated. You don't have to use your brain. Just put it in. It's not terrible.
I'll go 7.4, I think.
Yeah.
How about you, sir?
Yeah, maybe 7.3.
All right, screenplay then. Did you like Frank Martin's rules of being a transporter?
I did. I like Frank Martin's character. He's quite a quiet man, quite a chilled out man. Just likes to keep out to himself. And just
Rule 1 is no changes of the deal. Rule 2 is no names. And the way he wants to know every detail about the job, is really interesting. And the way he burns the note, is quite good. And it's like it's burnt into his brain already. Yeah. He doesn't need any other evidence.
Yeah. But I like, you can tell everything about him even from the first shot where you see him in the car park and he's putting on his gloves and he's just doing everything. He's just making sure everything is
everything
correct.
has to be like clockwork and super slick, like the action itself, But obviously he breaks rule 3, which is quite quickly, I need to add, never look in the package.
Exactly.
Which obviously sets off this whole film. And I alluded to it briefly as well. I just find it hilarious in action films like this when a couple, when they get out of a narrow escape, they don't figure out a action plan of what to do next. They don't escape the country. They don't take a long nap. No, what do? They have to have some sexy time. And make the lovin'.
Nothing gets you hot like a burning building.
Mm. Yes.
Yes. I speak obviously from my vast experience of arson and sex, but
they've only known each other for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't really I don't buy their romance. I don't know. It just seems a bit too. I don't think they have amazing chemistry. I mean, I don't know. It just seems a bit out of the blue,
It just feels like the filmmakers are like, we have to be obliged to have a sex scene in there somewhere. It's like, where should we do it? Oh, right, let's do it after they have a narrow escape. That's where all the other action films put it. So
definitely. Because it kind of, I don't know, it kind of made me cringe. Because I didn't get the sense through most of it that he quite liked her.
No.
It's like, I think
there's no chemistry there.
There's no chemistry at all. If anything, I think, why is he going out with... Why is he kissing her and doing all this stuff and then trying to save these people being transported and then trying to save her? It's like, if anything, it just looks like she annoys the hell out of him. I don't know. It's just a bit strange. It's not as bad as the romance, I think, in Transporter 3.
Right.
Oh my god, that was horrible.
I mean, the film does deal with some serious subject matters as well. The whole plot is around people trafficking, and Leigh shoots her own father, which is pretty dark. I mean, this is just a pulpy action film for a character to shoot her own dad because she just doesn't like him it's pretty dark. Yeah.
Well, it's not that she doesn't like him; she loves him, but it's just he's doing something evil.
Yeah,
this is evil what he's doing. I do like her little deception of well, she says that it's her father and mother in the containers.
Oh yeah, to trick Frank Martin into helping her.
I find her I think she was one of my least favorite things about the film. Actually, but, I don't know.
I don't think you're alone there.
Quite whiny. She's pretty.
Yeah, I mean there are some funny moments.
Oh yeah, I think I like anything to do with. So even when she's involved in it, but like Frank and the detective, I think their whole thing. I just love them. I think they're a great duo. Of just they're friends, they're friendly, but it's a case of he is a criminal, like Frank is, and he is doing a lot of these crimes that, you know, the detective is trying to investigate. And so, yeah, it's just kind of a very strange, like, banter, being funny, but also trying not to be caught by this guy.
Because you feel like the detective knows that he's a criminal from the first visit. He's just... Yeah. Frank Martin is just incredibly careful, you know, in particular.
Yeah. Well, I like where he meets the Lay or whatever, who's like the new cook, quote unquote. So he tells him about his car that, you know, it was blown up with 2 cops in it. He's like, well, that car was stolen, you know. And he's like, well, how did you get home? I drove him home. Well, where's the car? Yeah. And then obviously he has like the stolen car, which is bashed up at the front. Oh, yeah. And I like how he's looking at it, and he's going to go to the front. Like, you have a shot from the front of the car, it's all fucked. But they managed to distract him.
I like the moment, actually, during that scene where Hugh Shue is there. I think that's the name of her character. And he's questioning both of them and saying, like, a risky thing picking up a stranger on a dark road. And then she says... and then she says, you know, he had a kind face, and Statham is just so funny and just like looks at her and is like, seriously, me? My face?
Yeah.
And there's other lines like, oh, what kind of shit am I in? Deep shit, very deep shit. Noodle time. Here's some noodles.
Yeah, I like that. No, I like because with that he said just simple yes or no. I just want to know what I'm asking you, no more, no less. Yeah, and it's like. Your name. Like, I'm from... It's like, shut up. You know?
You're always complaining, except when we make love. Then you say nothing.
Yeah, that's such a cringy... That is a cringy line. Right?
Yeah. It's bad. Have you got a favourite line, then?
When he's about to, like... He's fully going to, like, rescue her and all the guys. And he's escaped jail. His escape is such a... It's like, he can't let him out. And he's like, oh, I bet you can get this sorted in like 12 hours. He's like, less. And then he takes him hostage, takes the detective hostage. But it's when he goes on the boat and he says something like...
Oh, do you need a gun?
Yeah, you're going to need all the help you can get. Borrow my gun. You know, have my gun. And he just like opens a sheet and he's got shitloads of guns.
Does he say something like, oh, you don't need it then?
Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you're going to need my gun. And he's like, yeah, that was it. You're going to need my gun. And then he shows him all that. It's like, maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite simple, but kind of funny. My favourite is literally right at the start, actually. When they finish the first car chase and you got all these robbers in the back. And he says, if you don't mind, I've just conditioned the lever back there. And then the stave unwinds the window so the robber can throw up outside the window.
Or I'll go through some other lines I quite like, actually. You know, during the first heist where he's got those bank robbers and they're arguing about there being an additional person.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, 3 people, that was the deal. And the guy just blows the head off of one of the partners. They chuck him out. It's like, 3 people. You know, and then they go off.
And a particular load, you know, a particular weight. That was quite good, that opening scene, because it just gets across that this guy is proper professional and not to be messed with at all. Detective
or whatever, he's interrogating him after that bank heist. What does he say to him? He says, I think Frank says something like, why are you so interested in me? He's like, I've always been interested in, you know, military guys. And he's like, well, no, I've been interested in military guys since I was a little boy. And he goes, well, I'm ex-military. Well, I'm an ex-little boy. You know? I know, I just thought that was kind of sweet.
All right, screenplay score. For me, it's a pretty straight action thriller,
it's pretty
really
straightforward, you know. You know what you're going to get. There's no surprises.
I mean, the dark subject matter could leave a little bad taste in some people's mouths. I don't know. Not really to me. I just think it was just like, oh, really? Okay. They're going there. So I'll go like 6.8, I think. No, 6.7. It's not that good. How about you, sir?
Go 6.4.
Acting, then. We talked a little bit about the bomb that goes off, and I love the moment when Frank just like pulls his jacket on properly, and his face is just like, yeah, I'm going to kill all of you now for destroying my incredible car.
Yeah, no, that was a good facial expression.
Yeah, you touched on it briefly with the moment when the inspector lets Frank out of jail, and he says, yeah, you would be the perfect man for the job if you're out. And then he just leaves the jail door open, and he just does this like charming smile, and he has this look on his face, just like, do what you have to do. And then cut to Frank with, a gun to his head and using him as a human shield. That was cool. Any other acting moments that you liked from Jason Statham or any of the others?
Even though we've talked mainly about, Jason Statham and the female lead, Lai, or is a character name, and the detective, from the police one.
Yeah.
There is one character that's kind of less prominent than all of these, but I kind of like him a lot more, just because of just the actor, just how he portrays him. And that's Wall Street, who you think is like the main bad guy through most of the film.
Matt Schultz.
Yeah, I like just his performance of the villain. He's just really weird. Yeah. Yeah, he's just so weird, especially as soon as you meet him and like Frank's delivered the package.
You just know he's dodgy.
He's just so strange. It's like he's really kind of like threatening and menacing, but he's like really slimy and then like smiley and stuff. And he's got all these nice suits and stuff, but he's really like, I don't know what you'd say, like effeminate. Like you think it was weird when he gave Frank the money and then just caressed his hand. You're like, what the fuck? I was like, this is weird. But I just really liked how he did the character. He was just like, he's just so unusual. So I thought it was always a blast when he showed up in the film.
I liked Rick Young as Leigh's father.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see him for that long, but he's always good when Rick Young turns up. He's got like a weird craziness to it.
He has got a weird craziness to it, yeah.
My favourite performance is Jason Statham, to be fair. There's not a lot of great performances, but it's his film,
Yeah,
so.
It is his film. I think I should give it to Jason Statham, but there is something I think about Matt Schultz and just how weird his character is that I don't know,
Fair
I just
enough.
quite like. Yeah. I like also, when he killed one of his own men in the hospital. He's like wiping him with his handkerchief. You didn't tell him anything, and it's like really quite homoerotic. And then he just, stuffs his face with a
bit harsh.
It was. He's just a weird character. I quite liked it.
So I'm going to go with 6.8, I think. How about you, sir?
Yeah, I'll go 6.8, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of the last podcasts, you've always copied me. Well, we've always had the same score for acting.
Yeah. Maybe I should change it because maybe it's just I'm uninspired. You say.
All right. I mean, you can appreciate the action, the fight choreography. I think that was what my score was based on. Really, there's not a lot else, I wouldn't say. Right, let's add up the scores then for The Transporter. The Transporter gets 41.4. Which isn't great at all, but in this podcast, I think it's actually quite a good score.
Yeah.
Compared to the other film.
Oh my god, yeah, let's get to the other film.
That's it for part 1. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 2 to see who wins. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell us what your favourite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for Twitter at FVF_podcast. If you do, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. If you're feeling really generous, you can buy us a one-off coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee account. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off.